We also have here the distributed data processing. Data processing are used to organize the information processing units throughout the company. The end user is given control over each information processing system. Distributed data processing does not necessarily imply complete decentralization. The system remain linked and coordinated with each other. It is frequently make use of a centralized database. As an alternative, the database might be distributed, similar to how data processing power is divided. Moving on, we also have here the centralized database in the distributed data processing environment. The information is kept in central locations. Remote in information processing units send requests for data. Central site services needs the remote for information processing units. The remote information processing units is where the data is actually processed. As a result, using distributed data processing has become essential when planning since it addresses the problems with centralized and distributed database. Under this data processing, data can be replicated or partitioned. The advantages of distributed data processing are cost reduction in hardware and data entry tasks, improved cost control responsibility, and improved user satisfaction as a result of control being closer to the user level. On the other hand, the disadvantages of distributed data processing are loss of control, mismanagement of resources, hardware and software incompatibility, redundant tasks in data, consolidating incompatible tasks, difficulty attracting qualified personnel, and lack of standards. Next, we have here the data currency. It takes place in the distributed data processing and uses a centralized database. During transaction and processing, data will be temporarily inconsistent as records are read and updated. The so-called database lockout, which we'll discuss in a moment, will take place in this area. Therefore, we need continuous access to individual data pieces by many users in order to achieve a data currency. Database lockout procedures are necessary in order to prevent information processing units from reading erroneous data and from overwriting a transaction that is being written by another information processing unit. So our solution for that is to have a database lockout, since it is actually a software control that prevents multiple accesses to data. Because once there is a distributed database in a decentralized database within a particular environment, it can be accessed by any users without our control at once. But using this database lockout, only one user can use that information at a time. For example, there is an information that I need to access. And while I'm accessing the data, another user wants to access the same information as well. So the database lockout will hold the second user for a while until I'm done with the data that I'm accessing. We have here the partition distributed databases. It splits the central database into segments that are distributed to their primary users. The advantages of this are users' control is increased by having data stored at local sites. Transaction processing response time is improved. Volume of transmitted data between information processing units is reduces the potential data loss from a disaster. Therefore, it is conceivable for numerous sites to lock out one another in a distributed system, preventing them from executing a transaction. So if we have a partition database, those are the issues that would occur. Proceeding to the deadlock phenomenon. Especially a problem with databases, a problem with partition. It occurs when several sites prevent another from accessing the data that they are already using. One site needs the data locked by another site. Special software is needed for complex analysis and resolution. Transaction may be terminated and restarted. We have here the deadlock condition, wherein let's imagine the site 1 serves as a request for data. Upon our case A and B, additionally, It is awaiting information for letter C will arrive from Site 2. Lock 1 cannot access the data since Site 2 has locked it. Eventually, Site 3 froze the letter E's data, but Site 2 still requires it. Since all of the data is frozen, it is known as the deadlock condition. If the data is partitioned in distributed database, that is the problem at hand. What then will be the solution for this? We may be able to use the resources already allocated to the transactions, but it is important to determine their state of completion so that the deadlock resolution software doesn't terminate the transactions that are nearly finished. We also require specialized tools to resolve this deadlock, as was previously stated. Replicated distributed databases. The duplication of the entire databases for multiple information processing units is effective for situations with high degree of data sharing but no primary user. Supports read-only queries. Data traffic between sites is reduced considerably. Replication is another method for distributing data from distributed database. On the previous slide, we divided a single database into several sites, but now we are replicating the complete database so it may be accessed by a variety of information processing units. Unlike the earlier deadlock situation, we are not waiting for someone else to finish before we get our turn to get the information. We also have here the concurrency problems and control issues. Database concurrency is the availability of precise and complete data across all information processing unit sites. Maintaining, updating data at all locations with replicated database is difficult. Timestamping is used to serialize transactions. Prevents and resolves conflicts created by updating data at various information processing units. Lastly, distributed databases and the accountant. The organization's capacity to maintain database integrity, keep audit trails, and have correct accounting record is impacted by the following database options. First, centralized or distributed data. If the distributed data, replicated or partitioned. If replicated, total or partial replication. If partitioned, what is the allocation of the data segments among sites? So those are the questions that we need to consider because they will affect our audit trails.